Knockhill couldn't be much more different, really, from a Formula One circuit in Germany. But what it still does give you, though, is very good racing. This is the second Motorsports News Caterham Inters Challenge race of the weekend. Neil Fletcher, double winner this season, lines up with Tony Poole alongside him on the front row. The grid for this race based on the results of the earlier race of the weekend. Neil Fletcher having also had a win at Alton Park, and Guy Harrington, who lines up sixth, was a winner there as well. As the lights go out, and this race, to last for half an hour, gets underway. Cars accelerate then down towards Sayat Curve, formerly Duffer's Dip for the first time, and it's going to be Tony Poole, I think, from the outside of the front row who leads. All these identical 1600cc MGX power engine Caterhams, very, very competitive. They give fantastic racing, and it's Poole ahead of Mike Richards, ahead of Neil Fletcher for the top three. Number 2, Ron Johnson, making his way through there as they go now up through the John R. Weir chicane for the first time. Tony Poole did an awful lot of leading in yesterday's race, but wasn't quite there when it mattered. Into Clark Curve they come for the first time. It's the yellow car that is the lead of Tony Poole, and you're on board with Mike Blackadder going very, very, very wide over the curb, over the grass screen, over the grass and over the limit there, and off into the tyre barrier goes number 44, Stephen Roden, and that, I think, could be the end of his race. Number 10 there, Bill Anderson, looking to try to go around the outside of Tony Poole as Neil Fletcher leads as they come through the hairpin. Addison goes around the outside, up into second place now. Neil Fletcher leading as they make their way up past the pits now, nose to tail the top two. You're on board with Neil Fletcher. To the left of him, there he is, Bill Addison, the new race leader. He goes through. The Plant Hard Company director grabs the lead now. Using all of the curve as they drop down now towards the right-hander of McIntyre's. It's going to be, I think, Addison to hang on to it. You can see how much of the curve they use around here. Neil Fletcher, yesterday's winner, is second. Third at the moment is Tony Poole. Fourth is Mike Richards. And then fifth is Guy Harrington, as launching himself over the curve. The race leader, Bill Addison, is not getting away from the opposition. Mike Blackadder going through. He's changed the number plate for today. Yesterday it said Baldrick, today just Adder. They're going through. It's Neil Fletcher running wide over the curb. That's going to delay him a little as they come now through his locks down towards the real radio hairpin, and another car in trouble and spinning off there is number 87, and that is Charles Bateman. The man from Boston looks like he's going to be able to rejoin. There's been a lot of early morning rain here at Knockhill. That grass very slippery. Race leaders now come out of the hairpin. They climb up the hill. Neil Fletcher a little bit slow there, possibly missing a gear. Not very pleased with himself. He manages to go powering over the line eventually, but he's going to fall to fourth place as now Bill Addison leads Tony Poole's yellow car. In third is the pale yellow of Mike Richards, then fourth Neil Fletcher, fifth is Guy Harrington, and you're on board with Fletcher as he tries to keep Alton Park winner Harrington behind him. Guy Harrington's father Peter was a bit of a star in Lotus 7s many, many years ago. And Bill Addison, the race leader, throws it off the circuit there. Runs wide over the curb, over the grass. Tony Poole leads, Mike Richards second, and third is Neil Fletcher. And just look as you ride with him how hard work Knockhill is. There's hardly a straight to speak of. It's work, work, work all the way round here. Through Clark Curve, Addison then in fourth place in a very muddy car, keeping at bay Guy Harrington, and then closing on them in sixth place is Mike Blackadder. Two trios then, the first of which is coming up towards the hairpin, and there you can see the fun and games going on behind between the red car of Bill Addison, the yellow car of Mike Blackadder, who goes ahead now of Guy Harrington. Guy Harrington pushed down to sixth as they come out of the hairpin and climb up the hill now, on board with Mike Blackadder. Trying to gain ground, fifth at the moment, Mike Blackadder, who was very successful last year to win the Roadsport B Championship, hand in the air as they come towards the Sayat Curve, and the reason for that is there's a yellow flag, and Mike Blackadder saying, don't come past me. There's one car that spun off at the bottom of the hill there. Mike Blackadder thumping the curb, sawing away at the wheel, trying to find a way now past Bill Addison. Climbing uphill, flicking over the curve, trying to straight line that as best they can. And you can see there Mike Blackadder was hanging onto the steering wheel for dear life. The top three though, Poole, Fletcher and Richards coming through as a spin puts Rob Winrow left and right and off the circuit, heading for the tyres. Bang! In he goes, headbutts the tyre barrier, and that, I fear, could be the end of his race. Here's a replay of what went on at the first corner of Sayat Curve. Big slide for number 14 going off the road, Andrew McIntosh. Slides off the track into the gravel. His race is run. 30 minutes coming towards its end here at Knockhill, and Neil Fletcher has managed to hang on to the advantage now for many, many laps. Mike Blackadder, though, in number one, going around the outside. Tony Poole going up the inside. Bill Addison's a bit sideways in fourth as they accelerate now uphill once more. You've got to be so neat and tidy through the hairpin to get a good run up past the pits, and the three leaders now as one with a back marker ahead of them as well. Jason Crow, I think it is, who's going to be lapped as the cars then come now through Sayat Curve. They drop downhill, and you can see that Neil Fletcher has broken away by a couple of lengths, but that is hardly any lead to speak of in Caterham racing. Addison, then Richards, then Guy Harrington, 4th, 5th and 6th. And they're getting themselves back onto the tail there, look, of the third place man. And that's Mike Blackadder, Tony Poole 2nd. And still the race leader is Neil Fletcher, who has done a superb job here of keeping everybody else at bay. Fletcher turning his way through Clark Curve. Jason Crow trying to get out of the way of the quicker cars. The race leader then, Neil Fletcher, now powers his way down towards the hairpin. But behind him, Tony Poole looking very, very menacing. He led many laps yesterday, was unlucky not to win. And Mike Blackadder getting a tap in the tail from the back marker, Jason Crow there, who tries to take his own line for the corner and damages the rear of Blackadder's car. Looks in his mirror, sees what went on, does Mike Blackadder. Jason Crow still doing his best to keep out of the way of now Bill Addison and Mike Richards and Guy Harrington as they all come pouring over the line. Down towards Sayat Curve. The road plunges away as they turn right, and then they've got another quick sequence of corners to sort themselves out through. Knockhill is a very demanding circuit. It may be a very short lap, but it's a very narrow one, and it really does prove who the smooth drivers are. Up over the curb comes Neil Fletcher in the lead. There in third place, Mike Blackadder. Still a bit of a gap between the top three and the rest, and a big sideways moment there for Guy Harrington. Somebody else in trouble, and there, spinning his way back onto the circuit, is number 9, Jim Tatchell. No damage done to the car. Looks over his shoulder, makes sure it's safe to rejoin, and Jim Tatchell rejoins now. Neil Fletcher still just fending off Mike Blackadder and Tony Poole. He's being attacked from all sides now. Blackadder trying to attack for the lead and keep hold of second place. And now, up on the outside of him, comes Tony Poole. Nobody can relax in any one of these top 6, I reckon, could still be the winner here. Down towards Sayat Curve once again. It's Neil Fletcher in the lead, leaping over the curve there. Second is Tony Poole. Somebody else taking to the grass there. That was Mike Richards, I think, as they came down the hill. Mike Richards getting it all wrong, and that could cost him dear now. Despite the best efforts, though, of the opposition, Neil Fletcher is still keeping his place here, look. On board with Mike Blackadder, flicking the cars through the chicane, and now powering up towards Clark Curve. Tony Poole going to the inside, going for the lead, is he? He's having a look. Mike Blackadder tries to go around the outside. The two lean on each other. Mike Blackadder goes off the circuit, over the curb, over the grass street, over the grass, and drops down to 4th to 5th place, in fact. And he's not impressed with Tony Poole for that. Neil Fletcher still leads, though. Now, what can Tony Poole do about it? Bill Addison is 3rd as the cars come to the hairpin this time, but Mike Blackadder's got a bit more work to do now. Here's a replay. You can see Tony Poole up over the curb, moves across the road, leans on Mike Blackadder and forces him right across the grass there. It's Fletcher versus Poole versus Addison now for the lead. They come to the left-hander of Hislop's. They come up towards the real radio hairpin, and it's still Fletcher ahead of Poole, ahead of Addison. This the only real straight to speak of, and then very, very heavy braking for the hairpin. Way up the curb goes Tony Poole on the inside. Bill Addison runs a little bit wide on the outside there, and the cars now make their way side by side up past the pits. Neil Fletcher keeping his lead. Guy Harrington now alongside Bill Addison as they start the last lap of the race. Harrington on the outside line, Bill Addison on the inside as they come down towards Sayat Curve, but he's not going to be able to go through there. Bill Addison clipping the curb. He's in 3rd, and he aims to keep it, if not go better than that. Swinging their way now down through the right-hander of McIntyre's, then onto Butcher's, and then they climb up through the John R. Weir chicane. The last lap of the race then, who is it going to be to win? Neil Fletcher is just ahead of Tony Poole, just ahead of Bill Addison, just ahead of Guy Harrington. Any one of those 4 could still do it, in fact make that 5, because Mike Richards and Mike Blackadder make it 6, therefore, are coming back at all of them. There's one more corner to go. They're on their way down towards the hairpin now. It's Neil Fletcher just ahead, and going to the outside of him is Tony Poole as they come into the hairpin. Hard on the brakes then as they get to the corner. It is just Neil Fletcher ahead, looking for a way past him is Tony Poole, who goes to the inside, way up on the curb, a little bit sideways. They sprint to the line. Neil Fletcher on the outside, nearest ours on the inside, the yellow car of Tony Poole. They're going to come across the line with Fletcher just ahead then. Superb race. Neil Fletcher wins 2 out of 2 at Knockhill. 2nd over the line is Tony Poole, and Bill Addison 3rd. And then the stewards got involved. Neil Fletcher given a half-a-second penalty for a yellow flag infringement, and Bill Addison thrown out altogether for a driving standards offence, and all of that gives Tony Poole the win.
Well, this time it's just seemed to be Neil and I mainly sort of got away from the majority of them. Mike Blackadder came up for a short while. Yeah, but it's good. You know, Neil drove a very good race.
Coming up after